Hi, you're on mute. You seem to be on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. All good now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay, great.
Hi, Shibu.
Hi, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Anwar. Hi, Anwar. You have also joined?
Shibu, who's the gentleman who's...
I'll introduce you. He's a very good friend and classmate. He's also the director.
You introduce him when everybody is present.
Yes.
I didn't realize. I thought I missed somebody who has joined.
Yeah, even I thought so. I thought he's a new resident here.
Okay. No. Yeah. Okay. Your share screen is green, sir. Muthuraman, sir.
Sorry?
Is your share screen
Green? No, it is not green. It is more like bluish, little.
okay?
Your
Anwar,
roof, you're wearing a yellow shirt that I can see.
Okay.
Behind you is the roof, which is a little bit bluish.
Correct.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, that's how it looks like
Yeah.
for me also.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there something in it?
No, if the share screen is green, that's only when you can share some information. Unless if you don't have anything to share, you just have to speak, then it's fine.
Anwar, are you able to hear us? I can hear you. Anwar, I can hear you. Anwar, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, Sujay, Bhaskar.
Hello.
Keep it yourself.
You can mute it. Shibu, can you hear me? Shibu?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
One second. Yeah, it's okay.
I could hear you earlier.
Yeah, no,
Can
it's
you
okay.
hear me?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
It's
okay,
fine, it's fine,
okay.
it's fine.
Good. All right. So we'll just wait a few more minutes and let a few more people join in, and then we'll. So Anwar, this is our what we have a kind of weekly meeting with and we just discuss some poems or things like that, or just generally speak about life in general, our experiences and things like that.
Great.
So we thought you'll be the good person to share your experience also.
Thank you.
We'll
Usually, how many participants are there?
about 13 to 15, I think. I think slowly, yeah, a few more people are joining in now. You have seen our layout, no? So not too many. Yeah.
Hi, Hema. So you're in two different places.
I am at my desktop and she is with her laptop.
He's moderating. He's a big man, so I just sit somewhere in the corner.
That's great.
Hi, good evening.
Hi,
Hi, Ravi.
Good evening, Suresh.
Hi, Suresh and
Good
Rajita.
evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Suresh and Rajita.
Hi, Vinny. Hi, Rohini. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
We'll give people another minute or so to join, and then we'll.
Sure.
Yeah.
You should keep penalty for people who are joining late. They should contribute to the fund of buying.
Actually, while we are waiting here, I should tell you that Anwar has actually been to Arbors. He has come home, so he has seen our lovely layout.
I think twice.
Twice actually. You should come now, Anwar. There are so many people living here. The trees have grown much more. So yeah,
much
it's about
greener
time to come again.
Geeta is having some trouble.
Raji Lakshmi's. I'll just call Raji. And Rani has not come.
Hi, Geeta.
Hi.
Ro, can you call Rani? Ro, call Rani and Prasad.
They must be on a call to the US.
Okay. No, she said she'll be joining when I saw her at the walk. So. Coming? Okay. Raji is just logging on.
Okay. Let her also come and then we'll start.
And then we can start. Oh, there's Prasad.
Hi, Prasad.
They're not able to connect Hema. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Prasad's there.
Prasad's here.
Oh, Prasad's there. Okay.
So, Muthu sir is starting. Who's starting?
Yeah.
I think we should give a thing to the guest. If he is okay, otherwise I can also start.
So your network is poor, I think. Your voice is breaking a bit.
Anwar, do you want to start?
No, let anyone start because
Okay.
I just reached home and I was
Okay.
My pulses are not settled.
Shibu,
Okay. So I'll ask. Pardon?
is my voice okay or is it breaking? Hema says it's breaking.
It was, now it's clear.
Now it's clear. Clear now.
Yeah, now it's clear.
Okay.
No, now. Okay.
Happy Ganesh
Okay.
Chaturthi, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wishing everybody that. So let's begin, I think. So I'll request Mr. Muthuraman sir to start off, and he's going to talk on something pretty interesting, how to be happy. Yeah. Okay, let's hear. Raji is coming
I
on.
will kill it in the end.
Okay, let me start.
Hi, Raji.
Yeah, let me start. It was about 10 years ago. Shibu, can I start? I can't hear you, Shibu.
Please start. Please start.
Okay. No, this was the year 2009 or 2010. So about 10 years ago, I was at the Delhi airport trying to catch a flight to Mumbai. My flight had got delayed by an hour or two or so. So I had just wandered into a bookshop, the Delhi airport bookshop. And I was browsing through the new arrivals when one caption of a book attracted my attention. The caption was "The difficulty of being good." The difficulty of being good. So I picked up the book and I saw the name of the author. The author was Guru Sharan Das, and whom I had known a little bit, and probably Suresh Narayan would have known him much better. And Guru Sharan Das used to be the chairman of Procter & Gamble in India, and who took retirement from corporate life at the age of 50 and started writing for articles for newspapers and books and so on and so forth. Very interesting person, and I had known him a little bit. So I thought I'll buy that book and read, and I had thought that it is something to do with management and leadership and so on, and that's why I bought the book. So on the flight back home to Bombay, I started reading the book. Then I found that the initial part of the book, or at least 60-70% part of the book, was about Mahabharata. And the episodes of Mahabharata and the stories of Mahabharata. And as I kept reading, I found he was dealing a great deal about how good people adopt wrong means to succeed. It talks about, how Arjuna kills Bhishma, or how Arjuna kills Karna, or how Arjuna gets saved by Krishna's, somewhat unfair means in the war, or how Lord Krishna himself doesn't take any action when Draupadi was being humiliated in the court of Duryodhana. Lots of things like that. And he goes on to say that the entire Mahabharata war was fought by unfair means for victory of good people. So even good people behave badly in difficult times. And therefore it is very difficult to be good. Of course, I am no expert on Mahabharata, and I don't pretend to be a critic of Mahabharata. Mahabharata, after all, is perhaps the oldest epic of the world. It is perhaps the longest. And it is perhaps most widely read epic in the world. So I have no pretensions to being an expert to analyze Mahabharata, but the title of Guru Sharan Das's book attracted my attention, and I did not agree with the title. So when I finished reading the book in Bombay, I wrote a letter to Guru Sharan Das saying that, look, Mr. Das, I read your book, but I want to tell you that good people can survive in the world, and good people and good corporations can survive very well in the world. And I don't agree with what you're saying, that you are equating the events of the Mahabharata with the corporate life as what has happened to Satyam Computers and Ramalinga Raju and things like that, which he has dealt with in the later part of the book. Guru Sharan Das wrote a simple reply to me saying that, Mr. Muthuraman, I see your point, but I would like you to think about it a little more. As I kept thinking, I started realizing one thing, that it is not easy to be good in this world. It's not easy for corporations especially to be good in this world. For example, I used to look at Tata Steel, where I have worked already by that time for 40 odd years. We do everything right ethically. We care for society. If you want to give somebody a voluntary retirement at the age of 40, we give him 20 years of salary, which is unheard of in the entire world of corporate history of the world. We take care of society. For example, this year in the COVID situation, most probably the Tata Steel is going to incur a loss. but we would have still spent about our own share of 250 or 300 crores on society. That doesn't depend upon how well the market is and how well our market capitalization is, or how good our profits are, or how low our losses are. It doesn't depend upon anything else. We believe that society is part of a company, part of a business entity. But do we get any benefit out of that? I suspect not. Our products don't get sold just because we are good people, just because the company is good. So do we get lower interest rate from the banks when you go to a bank? Do our products get sold better because of we are good? None of that happened. Even closer home, just last week, or maybe 10, 15 days back, I was in a meeting on Narayana Hridayalaya board, and the chairman of the board was explaining to all of us as to how good care Narayana Hridayalaya is taking about COVID patients and how other hospitals are behaving, what protocols we use, what cleanliness we maintain, what social distancing we adopt. Every single protocol that is required to be internationally acceptable is what is being followed at Narayana Hridayalaya. Now, at the end of the day, what happens? This year, the market is going to punish us. Our profit will probably slide down more than anybody else's profit. Our market share is probably going to be lower than most hospitals in India. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can't see. Okay. So this is what is going to happen to a hospital which believes that the right thing to do is to serve people properly and be ethical, be honest, have a company of great integrity and so on. You know, that reminds me, in spite of the fact that we teach children in school how to behave well and what is right is attitude and what is wrong and what is right, and we tell business corporations that in terms of longevity, you need to do the correct and ethical things for you to live long. It doesn't happen in the world. And in spite of many efforts, I recall the effort of Kofi Annan. When he was Secretary General of the United Nations, he started a campaign called the Global Compact Organization, of which I was fortunate to be on the board, the first Indian to be on the board there. We started all that, but it doesn't happen. So sometimes you feel that perhaps you don't buy things, you don't buy a network or you don't buy a television just because a company is ethically strong. You buy it for other reasons. The reason I'm talking about business, you know, some of you might even think as to why am I talking about business when these are business behavior doesn't affect individual behavior. But I want to just float an idea to all of you that probably 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, religion was the dominant force in determining the behavior of people. Slowly, that dominance became in the hands of governments. Governments are the dominant force in determining the behavior of people. And slowly over the last 50, 100 years or so, that power of influencing people and power of influencing the behavior of the people is coming into the hands of the businesses and big businesses, medium businesses, as well as small businesses. So you can be sure that over time, the business behavior is going to impact individual behavior also. And that's what is going to happen in the world. And that's a worry that if business does not behave properly, for example, Tata Steel was founded with the philosophy that the society is the central purpose of a business organization. I know there are some companies believe in it, but not all companies. I was happy to see some recent developments. In the last 15, 20 years, apart from Kofi Annan's initiative in Global Compact and in Davos and all that, recently as 4 days back, I think it was 18th of August 2020, SEBI, our SEBI, the stock exchange regulator, has come out with a paper, a discussion paper on where the first paragraph reads that corporations must believe that they are part of the society and not merely meant to make profits. It was music to my ears. And I slowly think, and I begin to think that slowly such legislations and such demands on businesses will make some behavioral change on businesses, which is where the other day I was talking to Ravindran, our own Ravindran of 61, where he's trying to develop what is called a compassion quotient, and I hope one day he will talk about it. People will behave on the basis of what they get measured. If you measure business corporations on the basis of market capitalization and profit and put Fortune 500 list on the basis of profits before tax or after tax or market capitalization, that is the way they will behave. The only way to change the behavior of business corporation is to change the metrics of measurement. And I hope all these efforts that is going on by SEBI and variety, in fact, I know that Sadhguru's organization in Coimbatore is beginning to work on that subject. So I am hoping that one of these days, the behavior of business corporations, which is so important in the coming years, that it will impact the behavior of individuals in the world, individuals in every country, that will get changed as measurement systems improve. That's a point that I wanted to make today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very thought-provoking. But one thing I wonder is whether it is the individual who starts the company that ultimately influences the philosophy of the company. So maybe it ultimately boils down to individual rather than company.
No, what happens is the founder and the founding philosophy has a big influence on the way the company thinks and behaves, acts. There's no doubt about it. But it is also depend upon successive leadership to the next level, and what pressures. For instance, I know of instances that I have gone through in my official life in Tata Steel, where under extreme pressures, other companies would have behaved differently, and we behaved differently. We have lost thousands of crores without batting an eyelid, simply because it is a good cause to be good cause to be in, or good cause to do for the public of India. So it is not a matter of merely founding, it is a matter of continuous leadership. But more, you see, these days everything is digital. If you didn't measure a behavior properly, and if you don't have a good enough measurement of behavior, then people will behave in any manner in which they want to behave. Which is why I am laying stress on the world finding out a new metrics of measurement of industrial organizations and business organizations. If you have the measurement, however difficult that measurement will be, supposing you decide your purchasing policy of a network on the basis of whether the company is ethical or not, you will probably buy something else compared to what you're buying today. But that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, we will only talking theory of good behavior to students and giving lectures and so on and so forth, but not adopting it. And that's not going to be good for the world.
Mr. Muthuraman, I have some good news for what you said, and I want to update the panel here about a very large study that is being done by an institute called the Reputation Institute. It's a study which talks to 80,000 consumers, not B2B, they're talking to individual consumers. And then in the last 1 decade, they have found, and you'll be happy to realize when you ask, more people are not buying my product just because I do good to society. That is changing, and you'll be happy to hear that. They have found that in an increasingly Me Too technological world where end products are similar quality, consumers are starting to say that all things being equal, I will reward a company which is good governance, which protects the environment, has sustainable practice, and gives back to society. And there is enough evidence, and this is not a United States of America study. It's a study spread over 5 continents. You can go to their website and look at their report year after year.
Yeah, you know, largely, Prashad,
like Disney, Microsoft, and more and more people are realizing that I, as a corporation, I need to have a certain purpose. And if I don't meet that, it may actually hurt my business. So I need to be starting to do good, not just because I am like that, but it makes good business sense.
Yeah, Prashad, what you're saying is right. And I am also happy to see the movement beginning to start. But the movement has not, unfortunately, gained momentum yet. Long time back, you know, what Tata said that the business is an integral part of the society and is a central purpose of the society. Society is the central purpose of business. He said it 150 years ago. And 30 years ago, in a Royal Dutch Shell study that was done in Europe, along with Peter Senge of the United States, they said oneness of the society is a fundamental characteristic of business organizations. Now, all this has been said, but that movement is not taking place. And I'm hoping that it will take place, over time and very quickly.
I'm an optimist. Every year I look at that study and find...
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Buy that product I want to back, which goes beyond product, which goes to the way the company is. And in that kind of world, Tata kind of companies would have been rewarded much more than in our environment, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, I think one of the, thank you, Mr. Muthuraman, for very, very thought-provoking. Incidentally, I also read that book and had a discussion with Gurucharan Das when I met him once on the influence that that book should have and should probably be read by many more people. But one of the things, you're absolutely right, I think good governance, corporate behavior, ethics, honesty stem also from the roots of the company. I mean, I'm privileged to be also in a company which is 155 years old, and incidentally, Jamshedji Tata's picture and Henri Nestle's picture look almost alike. Both are bearded, serious-looking gentlemen. So there must be something that they must have done. They must have done right to have lasted as many years. But I think there is another pressure now, Mr. Muthuraman, which will hopefully accelerate the pace of change that you're asking. You know, the younger generation, especially the millennials and the Generation Z, as it were, who are joining companies. You know, whenever I go, I visit quite a few campuses. At least in the pre-COVID era, I used to visit quite a few business schools. Youngsters no longer ask me about the business model of Nestle. They're not interested. They say, look, that we can look up on the site, and we can get exactly all the details and probably more than what even you will share with us. What we want to know is the soul of your company. So what are you doing for society? What have you contributed? What is the way? What is the culture? How much does ethics, honesty, hard work, sincerity, and what they call a middle-class culture, how much has it pervaded in your company? And show us examples in your leadership where people are walking the talk and not just talking the talk. So I think this is happening. And companies which are kind of neglecting this or are ignoring this will do so at their peril. And I think companies like Tata's would continue to attract great talent. Because I notice it in Nestle, for example, I have no dearth of really good talent coming in. And contrary to the belief that millennials are necessarily going to shift jobs every 3 years or 5 years, or they don't like to stay at places, I somehow find a bunch of very decent kids joining the organization and staying for a long time, and also liking the values, the principles, and the culture of the company. And I think those are things that youngsters are giving more premium on than just rewards and promotions and bonuses. And since the company matrices, as you rightly said, is also based on societal impact, I think to that extent it is also better for the long term of the company. But I think this is definitely a very defining moment, and I would think post COVID, there will be a huge amount of rethinking on the way in which corporates have run and how they have behaved in the context of the pandemic.
And Mr. Suresh, you are absolutely correct. What made me talk on this subject today, two things. One is COVID, because the COVID is going to have a big impact on what we are discussing. Second is the guidelines that appeared on 18th August from SEBI, which I would request you to ask somebody to show it to you. It's a 77-page document, and even the preamble is very beautifully written. It is almost somebody from, if I may say so, I'm maybe a little bit biased, somebody from the Tata Group has written the initial pages of this thing, where it says that business should not look upon itself as an economic unit. That is, I think, the first sentence of that chapter. It's a beautiful, so that gives me hope that it will change. Because if it doesn't change, we are in, today, a very large percentage of GDP of the world is created by businesses. We all know that. Slowly, that financial dominance of businesses will translate into environmental dominance and social dominance. And businesses have to play that part. And if they are not ready to play that part, we'll be in trouble. So what you're saying is absolutely correct. And I'm happy to see some movements, some positive movements in that direction happening. Thank you.
Muthuraman, one reference you made to religion. Isn't it a fact that historically religion and politics have always been there? I don't think you could have ever taken out politics from religion. And at the core of it, the administration or legislation or the executive has always worked hand in hand with religion to make society move the way they want to.
No, you may be right, but the way I'm looking at it is there is a one dominant force at a time. It is not that the interplay is not there. You will have governments, you will have religion, you will have businesses. All three of them will be coexisting. But the dominant force for many years was religion. And the dominant force now is governments. And that is slowly shifting the dominant force to business. That's what I was referring. And since the dominant force will go to religion, to business, it is necessary that business behaves well.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay, from good business, I think let's move on to a good death. So Anwar, if you have caught your breath, we'll request you to start off next. I'll ask Hema to introduce Anwar. Ravi wants to go last. So Anwar, if you're ready, then it's you. Okay. Hema, can you just introduce?
Yeah, so Anwar is a classmate from medical college, and he's also a poet and an artist.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, so I was actually hunting high and low for this poem which he had sent quite long ago, and I just put it up here. You can see it, right? Everybody can see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read it out. He wrote this about spirituality. He is a very intensely spiritual person, sensitive, as artists are. And we go back a long way. So let me just read this out, just so you know who's going to talk to you, Spirituality is something which connects the inside with the outside, present with the past and the future, thoughts with emotions, actions with purpose, sight with insight, sufferings with meaning, blessings with gratitude, beginning with the end, finite with infinity, life with death, death with eternity, and the creation with the creator. It also connects millions of hearts across time and space as it unites an atom with the celestial bodies and all of us. So I give you Anwar HUSSAIN. Go on, Anwar.
By the way, Anwar is also the director of the Institute of Palliative Medicine in Calicut. So he's helped a lot of people to have a good death in terms of care for the terminally ill. So that's where he comes from.
So if any of you are in Calicut, please get Anwar's number from us and contact him, because there is nothing he loves more than showing you around his precious institute, the Institute of Palliative Care, which is on the same campus as Calicut Medical College.
Thank you, Hema. Thank you, Shibu. And having
a bit louder. Can you be a bit louder?
One second. Let me put the microphone a little louder. 1 second. Is it okay now?
Yeah, much better.
Now? Is it okay?
It's good.
Okay.
So, thank you, Hema and Shibu. We are like more than buddies. Very close. Not only classmates, but we were like more than classmates. We used to share a lot of things. Even now we keep in touch as we used to before 32 years back. So anyway, I know that I have a very short period. This is a very interesting and elaborative topic. Needs a lot of discussion, a lot of interactions. But I'll try to present. This is a session I do for 4 hours actually with them. And it's also an interactive session. I'm happy that there are only few people so that I can interact a bit. I thought there were more than 20, 25 people would have been difficult. So I just jump into the topic right away. Like it sounds like an oxymoron, like good death, because most of the people in our society see death as bad or calamity, or it's the end, or something negative, dark there. But good death actually, and again the word quality, I would like to use a different terminology in quality of death. Like, do you have really a quality in death? You usually hear about quality of life, but we rarely hear, even the doctors. I would like to know how many of you are doctors here in this group. Shibu?
No, three.
2, 3? Okay.
3 at present. Yeah, 3 of us.
Okay.
Dr. Murli Mohan is a doctor, and me and Shibu, that's all.
So even
Oh,
as
sorry.
doctors,
Yes,
That is also.
Mr. Bhaskar, Dr. Bhaskar. No, orthopedics, right? Gastroenterology.
even as doctors, we don't usually hear about even the undergraduate or postgraduate level. We don't hear about quality of death, end of life care, terminal sedation, like so. We deal, as Hema said, I deal with a lot of patients in their last days, not the patients, human beings in their last days. I would like to use that word, human beings more than patient. In their last days, because we deal with two conditions. One is non-curable disease, and the second is the long-term bedridden people. These are the two areas we deal with, where they have a lot of problems. And, the type of persons, the type of human beings, usually a layman or a non-medical person might see once or twice in their life, maybe a close relative, father, mother. End of life, we usually see in a common man sees only 2 or 3, maybe less than 5 times in an entire life. But I used to see more than 15, 20 patients every day in their last stage. That means going to die within days, their days are numbered, their hopes are destroyed. So this is an entirely different area, different field. When I happened to join palliative care, I was mentally prepared to suffer as a doctor, because I knew that I'm going to deal with people who are dying. But believe me, after 10 years of work in palliative care, service in palliative care, I enjoy every day. I don't know whether it is right to use the word enjoy, but end of the day, when I go back home, I'm satisfied because I could do something for someone for whom nothing can be done. So from suffering of 100 to 90, if you can make it 90, that's an achievement for us. If the quality of life is 0, if we can make it 10, that's an achievement for us. Because these are a neglected area in the medical fraternity, where if the patient is non-curable, if she's diagnosed with a non-curable cancer, the medical fraternity have no role there, like how to deal with it, what should we do that. Except at the end of the later part of the life, where he is to be admitted in ICUs or in a critical care. But between that, before death and non-curable stage, there is a phase of human life where most of us suffer. I will share a screen now. Am I able to share the screen, Shibu?
You can share. You can.
Okay, fine. This is a study. One sec. Can you see that? Shibu?
We can see, Anwar.
Okay.
Yes, we can. It's fairly clear.
Just have a glimpse at it. This is a study done in 2015. And this is about the quality of death index. And see where India is. Where is it? Yeah, here it is, on the 67th position. 67, number 67. So out of 80 countries, only 13 die miserably than us. That is, of course, understandably, some African countries and Asian countries. So, however we improve the quality of life, however we try to improve the infrastructure of life, the roads, as we were talking about Tatas and Birlas, but every individual is going to suffer at the end of life in India. Believe me, 10, if I ask you all, how would you like to die? There are 3 types of death. One is sudden death, or you know that heart attack or suicide or homicide or accidents. 3 types of first one is that you live a normal life and suddenly you die. The second is you have the life-limiting disease, lifestyle diseases like hypertension, diabetes, renal diseases, and you have a up and down graph, like you hospitalize and go home, hospitalize again, never come back to the normal productive life. You live on medicines, live on dependent. So there is a phase, you don't know how this will last. It can last for 10 years, 20 years, but there is the graph is going down and you are disabled. And the third one is the same similar gradual end of life, but that is more predictable, like in some cancers or progressing diseases. So this 3 type of death, if I ask you personally, which type, if God gives a permission or gives a choice, what would you prefer? Which way would you prefer to die? I would like everyone to answer that question.
Obviously,
I would prefer, yeah, the sudden death is obviously most preferable.
Now, due to shortage of time, I would ask, who doesn't like sudden death? Who wouldn't prefer sudden death? Can anyone raise their hands who wants to die in the second and third style?
Sudden death, but as late as possible.
If possible, in sleep.
Yes.
Without knowing it, without confronting it. Believe me, but only 90%, 10% of the people has this, blessing to die suddenly in India. The rest, 90%, including you and me, will have a gradual end of life. That means second or third time, either due to lifestyle diseases or due to cancer or some other diseases. So, and that means you and me have 90% chance of getting bedridden, getting dependent, and with all these sufferings coming into our life, and as the graph has shown, we are very, very poor in end of life care in India. However, we try to improve the quality of life, quality of death is very poor. This is an authentic study, and it has to be bothersome, because you are living in beautiful villas, you are driving beautiful cars, you are living with a beautiful family, but once you are bedridden, once you have contacted with a non-curable disease, that's the end. Before you are dead, you will die, start dying. So what we do is at least make that period, improve their quality of life, and eventually improve the quality of life. So is there a good death? And all of us, Hema might be knowing, Persian poets, including Rumi, and all those people have a beautiful concept about death. They have written a lot about that. Even in Kerala, how many of you are from Kerala?
Most
of you are. Okay, fine. Halfway. So even Ayyappan was a good poet of recent times, so he was writing a lot about death. So everyone has a concept of death. Even though we know that death is traveling with us from the day we were born, but we try to ignore it, sideline it, lay the focus on the things which are with the glitter and glows, and which you want to enjoy, think beautifully. But eventually when this comes in, when it knocks on your door, you're suddenly shocked. Believe me, however you imagine your end of life, it will be different. Whole perspective of your life will change. The way you look at yourself will change. The way you look at your God will change. The way you look at your parents will change. The concept, the insight, perspectives, everything will change. You cannot imagine that. I can't. I am talking this very authentically because I had when I was in my third year medical school, I had a hepatitis and I was almost near death. And I personally know that how it changes your perspective. The flowers are not anymore the flowers you see. Skies have a different meaning there. Colors have a different meaning. Relationships have a different meaning. Time has a different meaning. You know, Hitler used to kill people using guillotine method. You know why? Why Hitler used to kill Jews using the guillotine method? Anyone
Wasn't
who
it the
is,
gas chamber?
he
Or
used
guillotine?
to, yeah, he used gas chamber and also the guillotine. Both he used with a particular intention. Gas chamber was slow suffering death, and guillotine was, if you think from outside, it's a very fast, sharp, sudden death. But he used the guillotine because it was a very sharp, very heavy sword falling into their neck, and they can see the head and their body separated for 20 seconds. That means I can see my body separated from my head for 20 seconds, and I know that you know that 20 seconds are 20 million years. So what I was trying to say is that the time, the value of time changes with your near death. Every day counts more, every second counts, every moment. So we all will enter that phase. We have 90% chance of entering this phase where I'm talking about. And from a doctor's perspective, from a doctor outside palliative care, the problems are mainly highlighted in the physical side. Usually patients are a physical thing. It's a broken thing, you want to fix it, like a computer or a mobile phone or anything. That the fixation is taking place there. There is no emotions there, and there is no human being there. Or I used to joke that human beings are cut into different parts, more than 100 or 200 parts now. In future, there may be a right eye specialist and a left eye specialist, and there might be a WBC specialist and a hemoglobin specialist. So it's going into the nano levels, and the human beings are forgotten. Every human being who is nearing the end of life have different priorities in their life. For some, it might be the marriage of their daughter. For some, it might be fear of death. For some, it might be the loan debt. For some, it might be the education of their children. For some, it is a pain. For some, it is God. For some, it is after death life. So every individual has different problems, different intensities, and different qualities. So this is an area where it is very sensitive, very fragile, and I will stop and ask you to. I would like you to ask questions about my experiences because I won't stop talking about them. So I like to share an experience about this quality of death. I had a patient, 16-year-old, very studious girl, very beautiful girl. She was like, the nurse from the home care called me one day that this girl is very intelligent. She's having a very difficult questions. So would you like to visit her? And I forsake one Sunday and went to meet her. And from the first, her first question was, are you? She had cancer in the bone, sarcoma, and was spread to lungs, and spine mets were there, and she was paralyzed below both the lower limbs, and she was on catheter for urine. And on that bed, she was asking me, "Are you an orthopedic doctor, pediatrician?" I said, "No." "Then who are you?" I said, "I'm a palliative care physician." So I don't have any cure. That was so I was like, you have to be guarded when talking to her. She was very intelligent. She was from a very poor family, but she took her effort from every class, every grade. She got first grade. Very intelligent. She wanted to, ironically, she wanted to become an orthopedic surgeon, and she got cancers in the bones. So, and I spent around, she was asking very difficult questions like, will I be able to walk again? Will my wound, like she was doctor shopping, Googling, doing a lot of things. Believe me, she's just 16 and very fragile, very sensitive age for a female. And another thing is that she had a younger sibling, 2 years old, and they were getting connected and playing together. And at that time, this tragedy happened. Just a minute, I have to attend a call. Okay, sorry. And she was asking, and I literally broke one by one, and I wanted to explore her. What is really? She knew that she is going to die, but she was hiding. She was on a denial phase, and I wanted to make her die peacefully. I knew that she won't last another week, so I transferred her to my hospital. And on the 4th or 5th day she departed very peacefully. Before that, she was literally fearful of death. She was on face telling that I don't want to die. And I asked her, why you don't want to die? Because I'm afraid. And I said, why are you afraid? I will be lonely. So, and I might go to hell. So I told her, why you should go to hell? You are such an innocent girl who haven't done anything wrong. She said, I watch TV. So I'm stressing that these small things become big. Whatever you did in life. So, and I shifted her to the hospital and she died. I would like to thank God. Very peacefully. This is just one incident. We had hundreds of cases like this. I might have seen more than 1,000 deaths in the last 10 years, 10, 20, 12 years. So this, we made her die well. She was, I wrote I will share that with Hema. I wrote this story about this patient, this girl. So I will share, she can share with you. In my words, she had a good death. She accepted it and so I'm stopping it here. I know the time is constrained and you can ask me questions about good death. Thank you.
So is it that good death is when you accept death and are at peace with it? Is that what you would describe?
What about you? Like, what will be a good death for you, Shibu?
Yeah, I guess that would be my way. I mean, that you are no longer troubled by the fact that you are leaving this world. I guess that would be a good death. You're not worried about it. You should not be in pain either mentally or physically. I guess those would constitute good death. Yeah.
I used to do an exercise. Yeah.
What I worry most, and this I think Shibu's boss, Timapa Hegde, takes a lot of spiritual lectures and I listened in on one of them. If I were to think about it, I'm always concerned about who's going to look after my children and Shibu. You go, you're fine. What is going to happen to them? That is always a concern.
In fact, I just wanted to make a comment on that. We spoke about passing away suddenly, and that's very good for the person who's died. But if the people left behind,
exactly.
The suddenness, the inability to come to terms with it is actually tough.
There's a sort of selfishness there.
So, I mean, I loved your talk, Dr. Anwar, and this is one of my passions. I'm actually one of the signatories to the Mathura Declaration. Palliative and end-of-life care is one of my, deep interests. So I'm so glad you spoke about this. And I'd just like to ask people here, how many people have made a decision on how they want to go and left an advance directive? And I'll request Anwar to talk about advance directives. No. And of course, the other thing I wanted to emphasize was euthanasia, mercy killing are not the same. Okay, let's emphasize that. And I think that needs to be made very, very clear that a good death is not the same as a mercy killing. So let's be clear about that. I'll hand it back to Dr. Anwar. I'm so sorry.
Prashad was trying to ask.
I have a question. Most of us around the room here have seen a film called Anand.
You are not clear.
Are you clear now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
Okay, I said most of us here have seen a film called Anand, which is about a terminal patient with a disposition which is probably the writer's fantasy. In your long experience, met an Anand with that kind of mind state.
In your experience, he hasn't heard that.
Have you met somebody like Rajesh Khanna's character in the movie Anwar?
Yeah.
As I told you, I will come back to Murli after answering this question. I have seen like all types of death, to be frank, like from less than 1 year old to 100 years, in every social background, every spiritual background. So it's every death is a different experience for me actually, because every individual die differently. Some accept, and on one important point I would like to proceed, and this came to my mind now. But whatever I have seen, as Hema said, I was a spiritual person from the beginning, not exactly religious, but very spiritual. I read a lot of books like Hindu scriptures, Bible, Quran, everything I could read, whatever gets it. This was one of my passions before I came into palliative care. So, but believe me, palliative care have taught more spirituality, more about death, more about quality of death, more about peace than any Quran, any Bible, any Veda script. Because I read life, there I read literature. So there is the difference between theory and practice. So one important thing I learned after coming to palliative care is that whoever sees life simply and is contented and satisfied with what he has got, sees death also as simple and contented. And those who are greedy, like going after life, like grabbing it, trying to enjoy every moment, and like what you say, this exorbitant, but they try to fear that more. Even the religious people, that I don't.
Ring the bell.
So that is. So the most important thing is.
It's in the third one.
Did you meet any Anand-like character?
Someone is interfering there. Is she asking something to me or is talking inside? Okay. I lost the link. Sorry. Anyway, ask the Raji to mute her microphone. Raji Narayan. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll come back to Murli. Just I lost my mind. What were you asking? Sorry to ask. Can you are muted. You are muted, Murli.
Yeah. So I just wanted you to, highlight your, the problems with people not making advance directives. And I wanted you to tell us a little about that and how it is now actually accepted in India that you can make these advance directives. It is a little difficult, but you're far more experienced in the area than I am. So I'd like you to tell us about it and get people here to start talking about, how they'd like to go. That's a topic we shy away from in India. So if you can encourage people to start talking about it, it'll be worth it. Especially in COVID times, I think it's become even more important at all ages.
Usually, commonly, our end of life ends in ICU or hospital beds. Most of the patients. In a recent study done by us, 85% of the patient die in hospitals, not at home. But if again I ask you where you want to die, most of you will raise your hands that I want to die at home. Not on roads, not on ICUs, not in ICUs, not on roads, no, not in the air, but at homes with the loved ones, holding their hands, talking to them and saying goodbye. Even though it is difficult, you prefer that. But most of us die in ICUs and hospitals. So we have to change that. Definitely we have to change it, because two of our most important and last dreams are not going to happen. One is sudden death and the other is dying at home. That's a sad thing. We want to die at home, we want to die suddenly, but the second choice, we have no choice, because but the first one, dying at home, we have a choice there. So I will again explain this with a story. People love stories. So we had an IAS officer. He was very brilliant, very bright, very courageous IAS officer. He worked in central government, state governments. He wrote books. He was a poet, fighter, everything. He was all in all. And he was a volunteer with us. And he used to take bags into the streets of Calicut like a beggar, fundraising for palliative care. So very different human being, very different personality, differently thinking person. But he contacted with cancer and in a very late stage. And he used to talk about, we used to talk about a lot of death, what should we do after we contact such a disease. And he had written beautifully, being an intelligent person, he had written about his will, advanced directory, as you say that. But as I said earlier, everything will change. Even your advanced directory will change, your attitude towards advanced directory will change, your desires will change. On the last day, you want you to shift to the ICU. I know that even if you get 2 more hours in this world, you would prefer that. So whatever suffering you might go through, but you would want to extend that days of time. So we might change, but I agree that it is good to have a thought and write it down. And recently, you know that there was 2 years back, there was a change in the will. That is actually what happened was, after that Aruna shot back thing. Actually what happened was, initially when a patient ends up in a casualty with a critical team, they have to resuscitate him, even if they have an advanced directory. Even if the person have an advanced directory, I shouldn't be resuscitated, I shouldn't be put into ICUs, I shouldn't be hospitalized. But if the person reaches the casualty and with the critical team, they had to resuscitate him and try to save his life, even though the patient wills against it. Otherwise, the doctors will be questioned and legally answerable. But now what happened was, this bill can be considered by a team of doctors, and they have to have a consensus that this patient's bill can be accepted. And they have, and if there is a conflict there, the district magistrate have to take the action. This is the change what came in, and actually that is more harmful because the patient is in casualty, and they can't hold a discussion there whether to let him alone or make him live. So that's more complicated now, but at least we have in a position that we can, as doctors, consider a person's will without legally questionable. So that's one thing. And very few people, right, because we don't usually want to talk about death, even inside the family. You start talking about, your children will shut your mouth and deviate the talk, redirect it to something else. So that's a very taboo, very socially stigmatic word, death. So we don't usually want to think about it, talk about it, discuss about it. Even in medical schools, in classes, we don't usually talk about it. We see that, but we don't talk about it. So actually such things, we started a program called Death Cafe. It was a 2-hour program every month, and we talked only about death. There were 20-25 people. We only talk about death, anything related to death, nothing outside death. So that was a good exercise. We continued now because of this COVID issues, we have stopped it. But that was a good session because a lot of people were coming in. We were having demands to conduct that sessions. We had a performer for that session, asking questions and getting suggestions. So I will stop now. My final words are like...
I have a question here, Doc.
Yes.
Is this what you were talking about, or which Dr. Murli was referring to? Is it something similar to a living will? like they have in America?
Yes.
Okay. So over there, it's quite common for people to talk about what they would like their ends to be like, or what they do not want the ends to be like. So therefore, they have.
Usually, there are 4 principles of ethics in medical. Right? Usually, even doctors doesn't learn that. I learned it after coming to palliative care. I never heard it in medical school. It is autonomy, maleficence, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. Have you heard Hema Shibu?
Yeah.
In Atul Gawande's book.
Yeah, Atul Gawande's book. There it is, yeah. So autonomy is very important. In our society, all except the person knows about the disease, the prognosis, the treatment protocols, not the patient. So these things are different in West and East.
In fact, many times in OPD, patients who have been diagnosed with brain tumor, the family will come in first and don't tell the patient, don't discuss this with the patient, don't tell him what will happen. And it's a very strange situation, you know.
And I asked them if whether you would like to know about it if you are in such a situation.
So Shibu, what do you do? What do you say?
No, I always want to tell the patient. So I try to convince the relatives. And sometimes I am not able to, in which case I put it off to another day. So I'll tell them, okay, maybe next time when we discuss, you should broach the topic with your father or brother, and then we will discuss about it next time. But ultimately, unless the patient also knows, he cannot be a part of his treatment. He cannot be a part of his care. And so the patient being involved and knowing about his own problem is very important.
And I can see that most of the faces are gloomy, dull. It's not like we started. And life is not going to be like we started.
Shibu, if you'll permit me, can I just take a 30-second? Yeah. So
sure.
Dr. Om Prakash is my mentor virtually in pulmonology, one of our senior most physicians and pulmonologists. So he told us a story and wrote a story about a patient of his, a long-standing patient of his, who developed a cancer. And the family, like Shibu said, you will not broach the topic with him, you will not tell him. 6 months later, this man came back and told Dr. Om Prakash, what you did was wrong. I am your patient. Your responsibility is to me, not to my family. Okay, it is a very difficult thing, but you know that's a lesson I learned from Dr. Om Prakash, that if the patient asks me directly, I don't care what the family has told me, I'm going to be honest with him. The problem comes when the patient doesn't ask. That's really difficult.
The other thing about the family is if the patient is in a situation towards the end where they are actually not able to make the decisions or enforce them, then sometimes the family has to step in. The example is my anesthesia professor, Lalita Talwarkar, brilliant woman. And she and her husband, what was her name? Anyway, Talwarkar, they were like the ideal couple. He was a nephrologist. And they were so good together, you know. We used to meet them often socially also. And he had hepatitis C and he went through a lot of suffering towards the end. He was admitted in Bangalore hospital. And towards the end, she is the one finally who put her foot down and said, no more, you know. And for her to be able to be strong enough to let go of him, no NG tube, no tubes, nothing. And what she said was, they were like this together all the time. They were like so perfect. They were the perfect couple. And even now she says, not a day goes by that I don't miss him. Because, you know, she knew what he wanted and what he didn't want. And she knew for certain that this is something he wouldn't want, you know. So when the doctors were trying to put all sorts of tubes through all sorts of orifices and just try and stretch those last few days of torture, she said nothing doing. So both ways, you know.
It actually needs a great deal of love to do that, to let a person go.
Okay, any other comments? It's a pretty difficult topic and can go on endlessly. So Rohini is trying to say something, or you're muted, Rohini, if you want to say something.
No, I was just telling Ravi There's a message for him, so he hasn't read it as yet.
So I will finish it with a few sentences. One thing is, Shibu was asking earlier, what makes your life, death good? So I would like to do all of you to do an exercise. Write down the things which will make your life death good. How would you like to die? What all factors will make you? What environment will make your death good? Like there are hundreds of lists. I used to do this exercise with my students, and they write a lot of things. I don't want pain. I don't want to make them others suffer. I want to be at home. I want to be different. It's very different. I want to die while I'm traveling. I want to die in Himalayas. I want to die in Mecca. I want to like a lot of different. So just personalize itself. Just go through it. Think and write it down. Don't think and write it down in a paper. Like what are the things which will make my death good? Okay. And from my experience, I would say that the word Shibu used it, acceptance. The thing is that when you know that you are going to die, you move into a phase of shock. And slowly, like any other crisis, any other tragedy in your life, you come to terms with it, start coping with it, with the information that you are going to die. And this, for some people, it takes 1 day, for some 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. Very few people like never accept till death. They deny. But most of us accept it, prepare ourselves. If you do it earlier, the better. I want all of you to prepare it now because it's going to come. So just prepare it and keep it in your shelf. We will open it when the time comes. So this early preparation is very important because as someone was talking, when you are at a stage where you are in physical pain, mental pain, a lot of emotional issues, you cannot handle this thought of death. So just make yourself ready and accept it. The girl, what I did with that 16-year-old girl was like make her accept that you are going to die. And luckily she was a religious person, so I could talk on a religious basis. It was much easier for her. We usually find the atheist very tough to have a good, I don't know why. I
was about to ask that question, Anwar. Hi. Does religion really help? Because, religion basically deals with 3 questions. Where we have come from, what is our purpose in life, and where will we go?
One thing, I will put it in few simple words. Like religion is very intelligent, or God is very intelligent.
Exactly.
He puts your dreams beyond death. So you cannot complain because you won't lose hope. You cannot live a day without a hope. So like that, you cannot die without a hope. So what religion is trying to do is make death hopeful, like something beyond. Whatever you do in this world, you get in another world. What you have done in this the past life, you are getting in this life. So it puts the blame on before death or after death, or the hope and dreams to after death, because you know that this is all going to end. So there's an intelligent play there. So maybe we are all fooled by it. I don't know.
Yes.
And I will close with a quote of Rumi. He's one of my favorite poets. And I'll show you. Rumi is a frequently quoted poet by me, and one very popular quote which I end all my classes is that wound is the place where light enters you. So that is one very deep, like a typical palliative care quote.
That is a favorite quote of mine too.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anwar. That was very, very lovely. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts about this very difficult topic with all of us. And I think we'll move on to Ravi's talk. And Ravi says he's actually going to tie all this together, both from good life to good death. By the way, anybody needs to rush off? Okay, so Ravi, we are all captive.
Ravi,
oh, Jaya wants to say something.
No, I want to go now. I have another.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, Jaya, for joining us. Bye. See you next time.
Thank you for
Jaya,
having me.
missing something very nice from Ravi.
We will arrange a private audience for Jaya with Ravi next time. With a bit of social distancing, we'll get Jaya over and we'll have another Mudra.
I have one more session, so that's why I have to leave. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having me here. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I will do an impromptu abridged version of what I really wanted to. Lots of too many thoughts in my mind, thanks to Muthuraman and then Anwar. But I'm dumping what I came here with, and I'm going to go into something which I think makes sense to me in light of the conversation we had. And I'll try and keep it brief. Right? I don't have to say anything, as long as most of you understand Hindi. My first, one of my first tryst is Gupt mein bhent. That's what I wanted to say. Gupt mein bhent with Hindi happened in 71. I moved from Chennai to Hyderabad, and last year of school. What do you think happened? A topper in the class, reasonably doing 97, 98% in Hindi, reached Hyderabad Golconda School, and for the entrance exam, I scored 33 on 100. And when they took me in, the Hindi teacher actually told me, you know what? You would have failed. I want to give you a chance, so I'm giving you a 33 on 100. I thought, okay, let me see because what happened was they would give a Kabir ka doha or something, and in Chennai, Avadi, we would translate it in 2 sentences in English or in Hindi, expand it in Hindi, and everybody was happy. When I landed up in Hyderabad, these people would say, Kavivar Kabir ne 1986 में कुछ कहा था, उनका जन्म यहाँ हुआ था, उनकी पत्नी ये थी, उनके बेटा ये था. They would write 2.5 pages of Hindi for that 2-line translation. No wonder he was reluctant to give me even the 33. When I left school, this gentleman actually told me, hey, listen, you seem to have done well, because I did score a first class in Hindi in that 1 year. And this was the school finals. And he said, Bhikshuk ho. And he narrated a poem to me. 50 years later, over 50 years later, almost 50 years later, I can still remember that. वो आता, भिक्षुक माने क्या है? वो आता, 2 टूक कलेजे को करता, पछताता, पथ पर आता. पेट पीठ दोनों मिलकर हैं एक, चल रहा लकुटिया टेक, मुट्ठी भर दाने को, भूख मिटाने को, मुंह फटी पुरानी जोली को फैलाए. वो आता, 2 टूक कलेजे को करता, पछताता, पथ पर आता.
Nirala.
Many years later, I went back to school and I met the teacher. And I actually told him, I understood you recited it to me and let me recite it to you. He had tears in his eyes. He hugged me and he says, Beta, abhi tum vidwan hone layak ho. Vidwan nahi bola, vidwan hone layak. This, but that we were in Hyderabad in those days, like I mentioned to you, and that's where, Hema, this is for you. The sentence, we were listening to a singing, and it was, I'll tell you who it was later, Do Pankti. Kawwal ko bandishein, alfaz hi nahi kafi. जिगर का खून भी कुछ चाहिए असर के लिए. समझ रहे हो? Words are just words. बांध के रखने के लिए वो कव्वाली नहीं होता है. जिगर का खून चाहिए असर के लिए. This kawwal was none less than Aziz Naza. And most of you know Aziz Naza for something else. But the difficulty of being good death, Aziz Naza has written one and sang one awesome kawali, which I would request you to, I'll send you guys the link. It goes Charta Suraj. I wonder if you've heard of it, but let me while listening to all this, I tried to Google it, although I can't sing it for you, but it'll be easier to read it for you just now.
Chadta suraj dheere dheere chadta hai, that one?
Correct. And the words are actually Hue namwar be nishan kaise kaise. You may be whoever you are, but you disappeared without a trace. Hue namwar be nishan kaise kaise, zami kha gayi नौजवान कैसे कैसे, चढ़ता सूरज धीरे धीरे ढलता है ढल जाएगा. It's a longish one, but I think the first 8 lines I will read out to you. तू यहाँ मुसाफिर है, ये सराय फानी है, meaning it's खोखला. 4 रोज की मेहमा तेरी जिंदगानी है. जर जमीन जर, even jewelry, जमीन जर जेबर कुछ न साथ जाएगा. खाली हाथ आया है, खाली हाथ जाएगा. जानकर भी अनजाने बन रहा है दीवाने. You know everything, but you still act as though you are immortal. अपने उम्र ये फानी पे तन रहा है दीवाने. You think you're going to live forever. किस कदर तू खोया है इस जहां के मेले में, तू खुदा को भूला है फंस कर इस झमेले में. आज तक ये देखा है पाने वाला खोता है, जिंदगी को जो समझा मुरली मोहन जिंदगी पे रोता है. मिटने वाले दुनिया का एतबार करता है, क्या समझ के तू आखिर इससे प्यार करता है. अपनी अपनी फिक्रों में जो भी है वो उलझा है, जिंदगी हकीकत में क्या है कौन समझा है. आज समझ ले गफलत के नींद में सोने वाले, आज तू धोखा खाएगा. चढ़ता सूरज धीरे धीरे ढलता है ढल जाएगा. That is what struck me, and it was one of my favorite songs. I will send the link to you. But this Qawwal, Aziz Naza, is also known for another Qawwali, which all of you possibly know of. Any takers? What it is? Which one it is? You also don't know?
Bobby?
Arey nahi yaar.
Prasad, help!
All right.
Aziz
I will sing it for you, and then you say. And this hopefully will lighten the mood, and we can all go back and think about all of this in a lighter vein, right? It goes, Na haram mein, na sukoon milta hai but khane mein, चैन मिलता है तो साखी तेरे मैखाने में. झूम झूम
झूम बराबर
झूम 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 बराबर झूम शराबी झूम बराबर झूम. Now, strangely, this may sound play on words, is आज ही अंगूर की बेटी से मोहब्बत कर ले, शेख साहब की वसीयत से बगावत कर ले. उनकी वसीयत को छोड़ना मत तो. ये अंगूर की बेटी, इसकी बेटी ने उठा रखी है सर पर दुनिया. ये तो अच्छा हुआ अंगूर को बेटा ना हुआ. बेटा होता तो वसीयत भी नहीं मिलती. हाँ? कम से कम सूरतें साखी का नजारा कर ले, आंखें मैखाने में जीने का सहारा कर ले.
Nice excuse to have a drink, right? Today.
I'm sure he's already drinking. Come on. Glass.
हर नजर अपनी बसद शौक गुलाबी कर ले. You know, attract attention, make everybody go rah for you. इतनी पी ले को जमाने को शराबी कर दे. पी हम रहे हैं, जमाने को शराबी कर देंगे. जाम जब सामने आए तो मुकरना कैसा. How can you step back? जाम जब सामने आए तो मुकरना कैसा, बात जब पीने की आए तो डरना कैसा. धूम मची है मैखाने में, तू भी मचा ले घूम घूम घूम, झूम बराबर झूम शराबी झूम बराबर झूम. The same Qawwal who wrote Chadta Suraj also did this. this was my beginning of my Gupt secret meetings with Hindi, a little bit of ghazals, a little bit of Qawwali. And thank you for giving me this time.
You know, this Qawwali that you just read is so
Jaya
much.
couldn't go, imagine.
Yeah,
She couldn't leave you and go.
I have 10 more minutes. ठीक है. So बच्चन की कविता, बच्चन का एक जो स्टाइल है पोएट्री का, उसको रहस्यवाद बोलते हैं. And there he actually tries to explore what is beyond life. तो कहते हैं कि दृग यानी आंखें, देख जहां तक पाते हैं, दृग देख जहां तक पाते हैं, तम का सागर लहराता है. तम यानी अंधेरा, अंधेरे का समुद्र है. दृग देख जहां तक पाते हैं, तम का सागर लहराता है. फिर भी उस पार खड़ा कोई हम सबको खींच बुलाता है. मैं आज चला, तुम आओगी कल, परसों सब संगी साथी. मतलब सब एक एक करके जाएंगे उस पार. मैं आज चला, तुम आओगी कल, परसों सब संगी साथी. दुनिया रोती धोती रहती, जिसको जाना है जाता है. फिर कहते हैं, मेरा तो होता मन डगमग, तट पर के ही, तट यानी किनारा, मैं किनारे पे खड़ा हूँ. मेरा तो होता मन डगमग, तट पर के ही हलकोरों से. जब मैं एकाकी पहुंचूंगा, जब मैं अकेले पहुंचूंगा उस पार, न जाने क्या होगा. इस पार प्रिय मधु है, मधु यानी जो आप पी रहे हैं, और तुम हो. इस पार प्रिय मधु है, तुम हो, उस पार न जाने क्या होगा. सो बच्चन के रहस्यवाद का जो बेसिक थीम है वो ही यही है जो आपने इस कव्वाली में कहा. और एक जगह वो ये भी कहते हैं कि हाथ पकड़ लज्जित साकी का, जो शर्माई हुई सकुचाई हुई मदिरा बांटने वाली है. हाथ पकड़ लज्जित साकी का, पास नहीं जिसने खींचा, व्यर्थ लुटा डाली जीवन की, उसने मद में मधुशाला. मतलब आप जीवन को छक करके जब तक नहीं पिएंगे, ये लुट जाने वाला कारोबार है, ये बेकार हो जाएगा. So I just wanted to quote Bachchan here.
Yeah.
And also it's about death.
Yeah.
It is about death. And yeah.
And in fact, all this is sort of linked to that little poem of Rumi, which Anwar has put in that chat box, you know. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
I have put a poem in the chat box if anyone.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like what Ravi was saying and Jaya is saying, and ultimately everything else is
put in
sort of in that
by,
poem.
Yeah, put in beautiful words by Rumi.
Yes. And Ravi, thank you so much. That was fantastic. You really brought everything together. Magician.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
I think we need a whole section of Ravi thingy. Not just
may I recite one Ghalib thing?
Yeah, sure. Anwar, go ahead.
Ghalib, anytime.
Ghalib, हाथों के लकीरों पे भरोसा न रखो, किस्मत उनकी भी होती है जिन्हें हाथ नहीं होते.
Wow. Lovely.
Thank you.
Had a very nice session here. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Anwar, next time in Malayalam.
Bye.
Bye.
Anybody else? Okay. Bye.
I would like to join this group every week.
Yes, please, definitely.
Anytime, welcome.
Anytime.
But you'll have to book a property in Arbors,
No, we've got one extra bedroom. Maid's room is free. I can give that to Anwar, so long as he washes the dishes. Maid's, he'll wash the dishes for me.
Okay. Good night, guys. Thank you very much. Lovely.
So